Hello, everyone. Last time we talked about why cops angle their cars during traffic stops, but today we are going into something a bit more interesting. This video is in response to a question in the comment section of that last video. Gil asks, I noticed that rifles and shotguns are still issued to police stations, but you rarely see them being used. Are they reserved for a certain level of danger? Great question, man. First, I'd like to mention that the usage of patrol rifles or shotguns are heavily dependent on the policies in place at each individual department. Some departments allow for shotguns and not rifles, others rifles, not shotguns, some both, and so on and so forth. So instead of getting too granular here, we're going to go big picture. Today we are focusing in on why departments generally have rifles or shotguns and what role they typically serve. Shotguns. Short and sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and just rip this band-aid off. They really aren't used a whole lot anymore. Slugs fired by shotguns are great, but they kick like a mule on crack, making it difficult to have precise follow-up shots. Not that you would need many if you hit someone with it. Plus, they can tumble and become fairly inaccurate over long distances. Now, when it comes to buckshot, it just isn't gonna do much for armor. Birdshot even worse so. Buckshot also presents additional liability, as you are responsible for whatever path those pellets take. If you've ever shot a shotgun, you'll know that presents a pretty big skew in the risk-reward ratio. Less lethal shotguns are great, but other than that, shotguns are just not worth it. If I'm being honest, I haven't seen anyone on patrol actually take a shotgun with them. We have them in the armory, but not a single person selects them out when they go on patrol. They just aren't as viable as they used to be. So sad, too bad, shotguns. See you later. Now on to rifles. Most patrol rifles carried by officers are typically the 5.56, 223, M4 AR-15 variant style weapons. They generally are a carbine length barrel at 16 inches and have some form of magnified optic and light. The reason these rifles are chosen is due to their reliability, accuracy, and adaptability. Follow-up shots with these rifles are decently easy to make due to their low recoil, and can be incredibly precise when used by a trained individual. So, why then is it departments carry these patrol rifles when it seems like they never get used? Patrol rifles in general really never saw much applause until the North Hollywood shootout back in 1997. History time, kiddos! This event started as a bank robbery by two suspects and ended up as a 44-minute non-stop shootout between the police and the robbers. The suspects, Phillips and Matt, let's just call him Matt, were the suspects who attempted to rob a Bank of America in North Hollywood. But these guys were not your average bank robber. These dudes were armed to the teeth. Phillips wore roughly 40 pounds of differing armor, to include a level 3A bulletproof vest and armor on literally every single part of his body. Matt, on the other hand, decided to opt for just a level 3 plate carrier, but added on a metal plate for that extra good. Phillips and Matt were able to get some money out of the bank's vault after shooting the crap out of its bulletproof door. And after the two conducted their heist, they were stopped by the LAPD. But turns out the suspects were not big fans of being impeded on their little journey. The suspects opened the front doors of the bank, the cops saw them, they saw the cops, a shootout began. During the chaos of bullets flying everywhere, police were unable to really do anything because their pistols just kinda sucked. They were far too inaccurate at that range. So badly so, some of the officers actually broke from the shootout to go get 5 AR-15s from a nearby gun store. That's not great, man. Now things were not going so hot, so LAPD SWAT showed up and took care of business with their rifles. Phillips got murked and Matt got a controlled pair in the chest by a SWAT officer, although Matt survived this due to his armor. And that same officer decided, let's just shoot the part of this guy that isn't armored. So he ducked his head below a patrol car and shot the crap out of Matt's little piggly wigglies. This ultimately ended the heist. A lesson learned from that situation was that patrol officers, not just SWAT officers, need to be able to defeat armor meant to stop smaller caliber rounds. Being able to match the threat presented to the officers became pinnacle. Situations in which an officer deploys their rifle varies, and ultimately it's up to the officer's discretion. Here are a few examples I would personally consider using a patrol rifle. In any case, there is a known threat with a weapon, a school shooter, an active shooter, a warrant service in which the suspect is known to carry weapons. Generally speaking, if we are getting our patrol rifles out, there is a high level of resistance we are expecting. And to dissuade that level of resistance, we use a higher level of a show of force. Simply put, if you're thinking about getting some Trix cereal at the store, and before you even have a chance to put your furry bunny paws on that box, some 10-year-old with level 4 plates, a Gatling gun, and a deagle shows up telling you Trix are for kids, you're probably gonna think twice about your decisions. Same thing with suspects we encounter. Show a high level of force, deal with a minimal amount of resistance. Plus, being able to hit a target that is pretty far out is incredibly useful. Like during an active shooter situation, where you could have a long hallway in which you need to accurately hit a suspect amongst a foreground of civilians. At the end of the day, it's an age-old tale of better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's why when people say there's an over-militarization of police forces, I think it's a stupid argument. Criminals are becoming more sophisticated with their tactics and the weapons they use. And as I said before, as an officer, you have to be able to match the threat you're presented with. It would be a real crap situation to run into a school with an active shooter that has level 3A plates and an AK, and not be able to stop the threat with a controlled pair 50 yards away with my 9mm. Not a fun situation at all. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. And always remember our sole objectives. Stop the killing, stop the dying. I'll see y'all later.